She called me embarrassing, said my shoes were worn and my shirt was cheap, said taking me to her office party would shame her in front of her colleagues. That night she left in a designer dress, smiling at someone waiting in a car outside. No goodbye kiss, no backward glance. Just the sound of her heels clicking down the driveway and a car door closing. The next morning, when she expected her usual coffee in bed, she got something else entirely. This is a story about humiliation, betrayal, and what happens when someone mistakes kindness for weakness. About a man who was called cheap and decided to show his wife exactly how expensive disrespect can be. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that hype button to boost this episode. And drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where you're watching from. Now, let's get into it. Evan Matthews was 35 years old when his wife made him feel worthless in his own home. It was a Friday evening, early autumn, that time when the days are still warm but the nights carry a hint of cold. Evan had come home from work around 5:30, tired but looking forward to the weekend. He worked as a financial analyst at a mid-sized firm, decent salary, stable career, the kind of job that paid the bills and offered room for advancement. Not exciting, not prestigious, but solid, reliable. Their apartment was small but comfortable. One bedroom in a decent neighborhood, nothing fancy but clean, safe, with good schools nearby for when they eventually had kids. At least that had been the plan when they got married 3 years ago. Evan had changed out of his work clothes into jeans and a casual button-down shirt. Nothing special. Weekend clothes, comfortable clothes. The shirt was a few years old, maybe a little faded, but clean and presentable. He'd thought they were staying in for the night, maybe ordering takeout, watching a movie, the usual Friday routine. Then Marissa came out of the bedroom. She was dressed like she was going to a gala. Black designer dress that hugged every curve, the kind that cost more than Evan made in a week. Hair styled perfectly, not the casual ponytail she usually wore around the house, but professional salon-quality waves. Makeup flawless. Smoky eyes, perfectly contoured cheeks, deep red lipstick. She looked stunning. "Wow," Evan said, looking up from his phone. "You look amazing. Where are we going?" Marissa was checking her reflection in the hallway mirror, adjusting her earrings. "We aren't going anywhere. I'm going to my office party." "Office party? Tonight?" Evan stood up. "You didn't tell me about that." "I mentioned it last week. You probably weren't listening." She turned slightly, examining her profile. "Does this dress make me look fat?" "No, you look incredible. But I thought we were staying in tonight." "I'm not staying in. I have a party to go to." "Okay, let me change into something nice. Give me 5 minutes." "Don't bother." Marissa's tone was sharp, dismissive. She didn't even look at him, just kept adjusting her dress, checking her appearance. "What do you mean, don't bother?" She finally turned to face him, and her expression was something between pity and contempt. "Evan, look at yourself. Look at those shoes, those jeans, that shirt you've had since college. You look like you're going to mow the lawn, not attend a corporate function." Evan looked down at his outfit. It wasn't fancy, but it wasn't terrible either. "I can change. I have suits. I have nice clothes." "Your nice clothes are off-the-rack department store brands that look exactly like what they are. Cheap. My colleagues dress well. They wear designers. They care about presentation. You showing up in your Men's Warehouse clearance rack special would be embarrassing." The words landed like physical blows. Evan felt heat creeping up his neck. "Embarrassing?" "Yes. Embarrassing. For me." She grabbed her purse. A designer bag that cost $800, purchased with money from their joint account. "Look, it's not your fault you don't have the income to dress at the level my firm expects. But that doesn't mean I have to broadcast that to everyone I work with. Marissa, I make decent money. I can afford nice clothes. Decent is the operative word there, isn't it? Decent, not great, not impressive, just decent." She checked her phone, typed something quickly. "Anyway, it doesn't matter. This party is for partners and senior associates. Spouses are invited, sure, but only if they add to the image. And right now, you don't?" Evan felt something cold settle into his chest. "So you're going alone?" "I'm going with people from work. It's easier that way, more professional." She moved toward the door, heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "Don't wait up. These things usually run late." "How late?" "I don't know. Midnight? Maybe later." She paused at the door, turned back with an expression that might have been meant as kindness, but came across as condescension. "Look, Evan, be grateful I married you despite the income gap. Not everyone would overlook worn shoes and cheap shirts. Try to remember that." Before he could respond, a car horn sounded outside. Sharp, impatient. Marissa's face lit up. "That's my ride. I have to go." "Who's picking you up?" "Derek from litigation. He's got a Tesla. Very impressive." Derek. Evan knew that name. Marissa mentioned him occasionally. Always glowing. Always Derek said this, or Derek suggested that, or Derek thinks I should. "You're riding with Derek." And a few others from the office. It's called carpooling, Evan. Try not to be paranoid. She opened the door. "There's leftovers in the fridge if you get hungry. Love you." She didn't say it like she meant it. Just habit, reflex, the thing you say because you're supposed to. Then she was gone. Down the stairs, into the night, into Derek's very impressive Tesla. Evan stood in the doorway of their small apartment, watching through the window as the car pulled away. Sleek, expensive, everything he apparently wasn't. He closed the door slowly and stood in the silence of the empty apartment. Her words echoed in his head. "Worn shoes. Cheap shirt. You'd embarrass me. Be grateful I married you." Evan had always known Marissa was ambitious, driven, focused on image and status. That's what attracted him to her initially, her confidence, her determination to succeed. But this casual cruelty, this public humiliation about his appearance, his income, his worth as a human being, this was new, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it had been building for months, and he'd just been too naive to see it. He walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, saw the leftovers she'd mentioned, 3-day-old pasta and some wilted salad. She'd made sure he knew his place, home, alone, eating scraps, while she went out looking like $1 million to impress people at her office party. Evan closed the fridge without taking anything out. He wasn't hungry, he was angry. I used to think love was about patience. That night, I learned it's about respect. Evan sat on the couch for 2 hours, staring at the wall, replaying the conversation, every word, every dismissive glance, every moment of casual contempt. He'd spent 3 years trying to be a good husband, supportive, patient, understanding when she worked late, encouraging when she complained about her job, celebrating her victories and consoling her through setbacks. And tonight, she'd told him his shoes were too worn to be seen with her in public. Around 9 p.m., something clicked, a detail that didn't fit. Marissa had said this was her office party, an event for partners and senior associates. Important, the kind of thing you plan for weeks. But Marissa had never mentioned it before tonight. No discussion about what she'd wear, no asking him to check his schedule, no reminder earlier in the week. Just suddenly, tonight, she had this party. Also, Marissa's firm didn't usually throw parties on Friday nights. They did lunch events, weekend retreats, happy hours on Thursday, never Friday evenings. Evan picked up the family tablet from the coffee table. They shared a calendar app. Had since they got married, kept track of appointments, plans, events. He opened it, scrolled to today's date. Marissa's schedule showed nothing about an office party. No event, no reminder, no location. He scrolled back through the week, last 2 weeks, last month. Nothing. No mention of any party whatsoever. So either she'd forgotten to add it to the shared calendar, which seemed unlikely given how meticulous she was about scheduling, or she'd deliberately kept it off the calendar. Why would she do that? Evan felt that cold feeling in his chest deepen, spread, turn into certainty. He opened the photo-sharing app they used, another shared space. Family photos, vacation pictures, random snapshots of daily life. Marissa had automatic upload enabled on her phone. Every photo she took synced to the cloud and appeared in the shared album. Evan scrolled through recent uploads. Most were work-related, screenshots of documents, photos of presentations, nothing interesting. Then he saw it, uploaded 40 minutes ago. 8:47 p.m., a selfie. Marissa smiling, holding a martini glass. Beautiful, radiant. In the background, the distinctive interior of the Riverside Hotel bar. Expensive, upscale, definitely not an office building. She was at a hotel, not an office, not a conference room, a hotel bar. And standing next to her, partially visible in the frame, was a man, tall, well-dressed, mid-30s, smiling at the camera, at her. Evan zoomed in on the photo. The man's face was partially cut off, but visible enough to recognize features. He opened Marissa's social media, found her profile, scrolled through her connections. Derek Morrison, litigation attorney at the same firm. Profile photo matched the man in Marissa's selfie. Handsome, successful-looking, the kind of guy who definitely drove a Tesla. Evan clicked through Derek's photos, found several that included Marissa, office events, team lunches, always standing close, always smiling just a little too brightly. The most recent photo was from 2 weeks ago. Derek and Marissa at some cocktail reception, his arm around her waist, her leaning into him. The caption, "Great night with amazing colleagues." Colleagues. Evan sat back, the tablet heavy in his hands. This wasn't an office party. This was something else entirely. And the designer dress, the perfect makeup, the fact that she'd forgotten to wear underwear, something Evan had noticed but dismissed as unusual but not suspicious. She wasn't going to a corporate function. She was going on a date with Derek in his Tesla to a hotel bar. While telling her husband he was too poorly dressed to be seen in public with her, Evan felt something shift inside him. The hurt was still there, the humiliation, the betrayal. But underneath it, something else was growing. Clarity, cold, perfect clarity. Marissa had humiliated him, had belittled him, had lied to him, was probably cheating on him. And she'd done it all while making him feel grateful she'd married him despite his inadequacies. Evan set down the tablet, walked to the bedroom, opened his closet. The shoes she'd called worn, he'd bought them 18 months ago, good leather, quality brand. They'd cost him $300, which he'd saved up for specifically. They weren't worn, they were broken in. There's a difference. The shirt she'd called cheap, it was Brooks Brothers. Not designer, but not cheap either. It was comfortable, classic. The kind of shirt a normal person wears on a casual Friday evening. There was nothing wrong with his clothes, nothing wrong with his appearance, nothing wrong with him. The problem wasn't him. It was her values, her priorities, her willingness to humiliate him to justify whatever she was doing with Derek. She didn't forget her underwear, she forgot her honesty. Evan closed the closet, walked back to the living room, sat down at his laptop, opened his banking app. They had a joint checking account. His paychecks went in, her paychecks went in. They paid bills from it. Rent, utilities, groceries. The current balance was $18,000. Money they'd been saving, for a house down payment, Marissa had said, for their future. Evan looked at the balance for a long time. Then he opened a separate browser tab, created a new account at a different bank. Individual account, his name only. Then he initiated a transfer, $17,000, from the joint account to his new private account. Left $1,000 in the joint account, just enough to cover the upcoming rent payment. The transfer would take until Monday to complete, but it was initiated, locked in. Next, he opened their shared cloud storage, downloaded every photo that showed Marissa with Derek, every message thread from her email that mentioned him, every piece of evidence that told the story of what had really been happening. Then he opened a document and started writing, making notes, planning, not in anger, not in rage, in precision. I wasn't going to shout, I was going to teach. Evan spent the entire weekend executing his plan with the precision of a surgeon and the patience of someone who'd finally stopped accepting unacceptable treatment. Saturday morning arrived with weak autumn sunlight filtering through the blinds. Marissa still wasn't home. Her text from 2 a.m. had said she was crashing at a friend's place. Which friend she didn't specify. Evan knew exactly where she was, or rather, who she was with. He got up at 6 a.m., made coffee, and started working through his list. First stop, the bank. He arrived when they opened at 9, asked to speak with an account manager. A woman named Patricia led him to a private office with glass walls and corporate artwork. "How can I help you today, Mr. Matthews?" "I'm separating from my wife. I need to protect my assets and set up a new individual account." Patricia's expression remained professionally neutral, but her eyes showed sympathy. She'd probably handled dozens of similar situations. "I understand. That's a difficult situation. Let me walk you through your options." They spent an hour going over details. The joint account had $18,000. Evan provided documentation showing he'd contributed approximately 70% of all deposits over the past 3 years. His paychecks, his bonuses, his tax returns. Legally, joint assets are typically split 50-50 in a separation, Patricia explained. But if you can document that you contributed the majority, and if your wife agrees or doesn't contest, you can transfer a larger percentage. She won't agree, but she also won't have grounds to contest it once she sees why I'm leaving. "May I ask what happened? You don't have to share, but it helps me advise you properly." "She's having an affair. Has been for months. I have documentation." Patricia nodded slowly. "In that case, transferring the majority of jointly held funds to protect your assets during separation is reasonable. Most judges would support that, especially if the other party committed marital misconduct." Evan opened the new account. Individual, his name only. Maximum security settings, 2-factor authentication, email alerts for any transactions. Then he initiated the transfer. $17,000 from joint to individual. This will process by end of business Monday, Patricia said. Once it's complete, I recommend changing your direct deposit to route to the new account instead of the joint one. Already planned. Well, you're very organized. I'm very motivated. He left the bank feeling something shift inside him. This wasn't just about money. It was about taking back control, about refusing to be the person Marissa thought she could humiliate with no consequences. Next stop, the apartment complex office. The property manager, a middle-aged woman named Sandra, who Evan had interacted with dozens of times over 2 years, looked concerned when he explained the situation. I'd like to renew the lease when it comes up next month, but remove Marissa Matthews from the agreement. It'll just be me. Sandra shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Matthews, I'm sympathetic to your situation, but removing a co-tenant requires either her consent or documentation of separation. Do you have separation papers? I will by Monday. And she's aware you're doing this? She will be, soon. I have to be honest, this puts me in a difficult position. If she contests it, she won't have grounds to contest. I've been paying the full rent from my income for 2 years. Check your records. Every check comes from an account in my name. She's contributed nothing to housing costs. Sandra pulled up their account on her computer, scrolled through payment history. You're right. Every payment comes from your personal checking account. Because I'm the one who cares about having a home. She cares about appearances, about impressing people, about spending money on designer clothes while I cover the rent. I'll make a note in your file. When the lease comes up for renewal, if you have separation documentation, we can process it with just your name. Thank you. Mr. Matthews? For what it's worth, I'm sorry you're going through this. Don't be sorry. I'm not. I'm relieved I found out who she is before we had kids or bought a house together. Better now than later. From the leasing office, Evan drove to a print shop. Professional place, high-quality equipment. He had a flash drive with every piece of evidence he'd collected. Every photo of Marissa and Derek, every screenshot of messages, every social media post that told the story of their months-long affair. I need these printed, he told the employee. High quality, glossy paper, 2 sets of everything. The employee glanced at the first few images on the screen, looked uncomfortable. Is this for legal purposes? Separation proceedings. I need documentation. Understood. Give us an hour. Evan sat in his car in the parking lot and made phone calls. First, his lawyer, Michael Chen, someone Evan had worked with 3 years ago on a contract dispute. Trustworthy, experienced, discreet. Evan, good to hear from you. What can I do for you? I need to file for legal separation. Possibly divorce. My wife's been having an affair. I'm sorry to hear that. How sure are you about this decision? Completely sure. I have extensive documentation, photos, messages, timeline. It's not ambiguous. Okay. Do you want to try mediation first, or go straight to filing? Straight to filing. She doesn't know I know yet. I want everything ready before she realizes what's happening. That's strategic. Probably smart. When do you want to serve her? Monday morning. I'll tell her Sunday night or Monday morning. Give her the papers and let her deal with the reality. Aggressive timeline, but doable. I'll draft everything today. You'll need to come in tomorrow to review and sign. I'll be there. Evan, are you okay? This is a lot to process. I'm fine. Actually, I'm better than I've been in months, maybe years. I've been accepting behavior I shouldn't have accepted. This is me correcting that. After hanging up with Michael, Evan called the car leasing company, navigated through automated menus, finally reached a human. I'm calling about lease agreement number 4478923. The car is in both my name and my wife's name, but I've been making all the payments. I'm separating from my wife and need to remove her from the lease. That requires consent from both parties, sir. What if I stop making payments? What happens to both our credit? Long pause. Both parties would be held liable. Both credit scores would be negatively impacted. Here's my proposal. I'll continue making payments on time if you remove her from the lease. Otherwise, I'm defaulting immediately, and you can deal with repossessing the vehicle. Sir, that's not how... I have perfect payment history. 24 months, never late, never missed. I'm the only income source making those payments. My soon-to-be ex-wife has contributed nothing. So you can either keep a reliable payer and remove her name, or you can fight both of us in court while the car depreciates and neither of us pays. Your choice. Another pause. Let me escalate to a supervisor. 10 minutes later, a supervisor came on the line. More reasonable, more pragmatic. Mr. Matthews, I've reviewed your account. Given your payment history and the circumstances, we're willing to remove the co-lessee without her signature. We'll send documentation for you to sign. Once processed, the lease will be solely in your name. Thank you. That's very reasonable of you. We prefer to keep good customers. You've been reliable. We appreciate that. One more thing severed. Evan picked up the printed photos from the print shop. 2 complete sets. Every image glossy and clear. Undeniable. Then he went shopping. First stop, Nordstrom. He walked through the men's department with purpose. Not browsing, shopping with intention. Italian leather dress shoes, Cole Haan, $800. The kind of shoes that would never, ever be called worn or embarrassing. Designer shirts, Hugo Boss, Ralph Lauren Purple Label, Armani, each one $200 to $400. Classic cuts, perfect fit, the kind of clothes that screamed success and taste. A new blazer, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, $1,000, new dress pants, wool, impeccable. By the time he finished, he'd spent $3,000. Money from his new private account. Money Marissa would never see, never benefit from, never get to criticize. The salesperson, a well-dressed man in his 50s, seemed genuinely pleased. You have excellent taste, sir. These pieces will serve you well. Thank you. I'm rebuilding my wardrobe. Special occasion? You could say that. I'm becoming the person I should have been all along. Evan loaded the purchases into his car, drove home, hung everything in the closet with care. Then he sat down at the kitchen table with the folder of photos and the drafted separation papers Michael had sent over electronically for his review. Everything was ready, the money transferred, the lease arrangements made, the car situation resolved, the evidence printed, the legal papers drafted. All that remained was waiting for Marissa to come home. She arrived Sunday evening around 9 p.m., 2 days after she'd left for her office party. 40 hours of being with Derek, or at hotels, or wherever they'd spent their affair weekend. She looked exhausted. Makeup smeared and faded, hair flat and messy. The designer dress wrinkled, heels scuffed. Still beautiful, objectively, but worn, used. Hey, she said, dropping her purse on the counter with a heavy thud. Oh, what a weekend. I'm exhausted. Evan looked up from his laptop, studied her. This woman he'd spent 3 years of his life with. This woman who'd just spent a weekend betraying him while he dismantled the life she thought was secure. How was the party? Oh, long. So much schmoozing. My feet are killing me. She kicked off her heels, groaning with relief. I need a shower and about 12 hours of sleep. Sounds rough. It was. But good for networking. You know how these things are. She paused, looked at him more closely. Are you mad at me? Why would I be mad? I don't know. You just seem off, distant, like something's wrong. Just tired. Long weekend here, too. Did a lot of thinking. About what? About us. About our marriage. About what I want my life to look like. Something flickered across her face. Concern? Fear? That sounds serious. It is serious. But we can talk about it later. You should shower. Get some rest. We'll have a conversation in the morning. She studied him for a long moment, clearly sensing something was wrong, but not quite able to identify what. Okay, yeah. We'll talk tomorrow. She went to the bathroom. Evan heard the shower start, heard her moving around, getting ready for bed. He didn't follow her, didn't go to their bedroom, just stayed on the couch, working on his laptop, waiting. Tomorrow was Monday. Tomorrow she'd wake up expecting what she always expected on Monday mornings. Coffee in bed, the start of a new week, her husband playing his role in the life she'd designed. Tomorrow she'd wake up to a very different reality, and Evan would make absolutely certain she understood exactly what she'd destroyed and exactly what it was going to cost her. Not in anger, not in rage, not even in vindictiveness, just in consequences. Pure, clear, unavoidable consequences. I wasn't going to shout. I was going to teach. And tomorrow, class was in session. Marissa woke up Monday morning at 8 a.m., like always. Evan knew because he was already awake, sitting in the kitchen, waiting. He heard her stir, heard her stretch, heard her call out, voice still thick with sleep. Evan, coffee? He didn't respond. A minute later, more insistent. Evan, where's my coffee? Still nothing. Then footsteps. The bedroom door opening. Marissa appeared in the hallway wearing one of his old t-shirts, looking confused and irritated. Did you not hear me? I asked for... She stopped. Saw him sitting at the kitchen table, fully dressed, coffee cup in front of him. Why didn't you bring me coffee? Because I'm not your servant, she blinked. What? You called. I didn't respond. That should tell you something. Evan, I'm not in the mood for whatever attitude you're carrying. I had a long weekend. I'm tired. Just get me coffee and... Go get it yourself. Marissa's expression shifted from confused to angry. Excuse me? You heard me. If you want coffee, the machine's right there. You're an adult. Make it yourself. Oh, what the hell is wrong with you? Nothing. For the first time in a long time, absolutely nothing is wrong with me. Evan stood up. But something's wrong with you. Something's been wrong with you for a while. I just didn't see it clearly until Friday night. Friday night? What are you talking about? When you called me embarrassing, when you said my clothes would shame you, when you left for your office party. He made air quotes. That Friday night. Marissa's face went carefully neutral. Evan, I'm sorry if that came across harsh. I was just being honest. You were being cruel. But that's not actually what bothers me most. He walked to the counter, picked up an envelope. What bothers me is what happened after you left. What are you talking about? I'm talking about Derek. I'm talking about the Riverside Hotel. I'm talking about you spending the weekend with him instead of coming home to your husband. All color drained from her face. I don't know what you... Don't lie. Please don't insult me further by lying. He handed her the envelope. Open it. Marissa took it with shaking hands. Opened it slowly. Inside were the printed photos. All of them. Marissa and Derek at the hotel bar, at office events, the Instagram photo, the text messages, each one clear, undeniable, damning. She flipped through them, her hands shaking harder with each image. Where did you get these? Our shared photo cloud, your backed up texts, your public social media, you weren't exactly subtle. You spied on me. I observed what you made accessible. That's not spying. That's paying attention. Evan, I can explain. Can you explain E will be home, oblivious as always? Can you explain you make me feel alive in ways he never could? Can you explain spending Friday night and all weekend with another man while telling me you were at a work function? Tears started streaming down her face. We weren't. Save it. I don't actually care about your excuses. He gestured to the envelope. Keep looking. There's more. She pulled out the next document. Separation papers, official, legal, ready to file. You're leaving me? Her voice was small, broken. Technically, you left me. I'm just making it official. Evan, please, I made a mistake. I was confused. Derek was just what? A distraction? A mistake? Is that how you're going to minimize months of emotional affair that clearly turned physical? Don't lie to me again. I've seen enough. I know enough. He walked toward the door. The joint bank account has $1,000 in it. Enough for this month's rent. That's your share? The rest was mine. I've moved it. You can't just take all our money. I can take my money, which is what it is. Check the deposit records. I've been contributing 70% of what goes into that account. You're welcome to your 30%. I left you more than that. Her face was pure panic now. Where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to live? That's not my problem anymore. Maybe Derek can help you, maybe your office friends. Maybe the job you're so proud of can cover your expenses. He opened the door. Oh, and check your credit cards. I canceled the ones that were in my name with you as an authorized user. You'll need to get your own. Evan, wait. Also, the car lease is now solely in my name. You're welcome to keep using the car, but if you damage it, you're liable. And I'll be reporting all of this to your firm's HR department. Most companies have policies about relationships between employees, especially when one party is married. You wouldn't? I already did. Sent an email Sunday night, with documentation. He picked up his briefcase. Oh, and one more thing. Your parents. They received a very interesting package in the mail Saturday. Photos, messages, timeline, everything they need to understand what their daughter's been doing. You told my parents? She was screaming now, mascara running down her face. I didn't tell them anything. I just shared information they deserved to have. You bastard! You vindictive bastard! Vindictive would be posting everything publicly. Would be contacting Derek's wife. He paused. Oh, did I not mention? Derek's married. Has been for 6 years. She didn't know about you either, but she does now. Marissa collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Evan felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, just cold completion. You called me cheap, he said quietly. Called my shoes worn, said I'd embarrass you, made me feel worthless in my own home. He opened the door. So I showed you exactly how expensive your pride was going to be. Please don't do this. Please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're sorry you got caught. That's different from being sorry you did it. He walked out, closed the door on her sobbing, drove to work, sat at his desk, and felt for the first time in weeks like he could breathe. She thought she could humiliate me once. I let the world do the rest. The fallout was immediate and comprehensive. Derek's wife, Melissa, had received Evan's email Sunday afternoon. Clear, factual, apologetic for the pain, but firm on the truth. Attached evidence, photos, messages, timeline. By Monday morning, Derek's life was in ruins. Melissa had done exactly what Evan hoped she would. Gone public, posted on social media, tagged Derek, tagged Marissa, shared every piece of evidence. My husband spent the weekend with his colleague while lying to me about a work conference. Here's what that actually looked like. The post went viral within Derek and Marissa's social circle. Hundreds of comments, shares, screenshots. Derek's firm called him in Monday afternoon, put him on administrative leave pending an ethics investigation. Workplace affairs were against company policy, especially between members of different departments. Created liability, destroyed professional boundaries. Marissa faced the same. Her boss, a woman who'd mentored her, who'd advocated for her promotion, called her into her office Monday morning. "I'm disappointed," was all she said. Incredibly disappointed. Marissa tried to explain, tried to minimize it. It wasn't serious. It doesn't matter if it was serious. It matters that you lied, to your colleagues, to HR, to me, and that you created a hostile work environment by having an affair with a married colleague. I didn't know he was married. That's not true, and we both know it. Derek has photos of his wife on his desk, talks about her constantly. Everyone knows he's married. Marissa was also put on leave, told to consider her future with the firm, which was corporate speak for start looking for another job. Her parents called Tuesday morning, her mother crying, her father coldly furious. How could you do this? How could you betray Evan like this? He's been nothing but good to you. Dad, I made a mistake. You made choices, deliberate choices, and you humiliated that boy in the process. He's not a boy. He's more of a man than you deserve. And now you've destroyed your marriage, your career, and your reputation. For what? For some lawyer who was using you? That was the worst part. Derek had dropped her immediately, stopped answering calls, blocked her number, sent one text. My wife is divorcing me because of you. Don't contact me again. He'd used her, and she'd thrown away everything for someone who cared nothing about her. Marissa tried calling Evan dozens of times over those first few days. Left voicemails ranging from apologetic to angry to desperate. Please, we need to talk. You can't just destroy my life like this. I know I hurt you, but this is too much. Evan, I'm losing everything. My job, my family, my reputation. Please, I'm begging you, make this stop. Evan listened to one voicemail, deleted the rest without playing them. What was there to say? She'd made her choices. Now she was living with the consequences. His friends were supportive. His family was supportive. Even his co-workers, when they heard what happened, were sympathetic. Man, I'm sorry, his colleague James said. That's brutal. I'm okay. Actually, I'm better than okay. How do you figure? Because I know exactly who she is now, and I know exactly what I'm worth. Those are valuable things to know. On Wednesday, Marissa showed up at his workplace. Evan saw her through the glass door of the building lobby. Mascara smeared, hair messy, wearing sweatpants and a jacket. Nothing like the polished professional she'd been on Friday. She looked destroyed. He met her outside, didn't want her making a scene in his office. What do you want, Marissa? I want to talk, please. Just give me 5 minutes. You've had 3 years of minutes. You used them to lie and cheat and make me feel worthless. What else is there to say? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know I hurt you. I know I was terrible. But please, you're destroying my life. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just holding up a mirror. If you don't like what you see, that's not my fault. Everyone knows. Everyone's seen those photos. I can't go anywhere without people whispering. My parents won't speak to me. My firm is forcing me out. Derek won't talk to me. I have nothing. I am nothing. That's a dramatic oversimplification. You have a lot. You have your intelligence, your education, your ability to work. What you don't have is the life you had when you were married to me, the financial security, the social standing, the cushion of my support. I need you? No. You don't need me. You need someone to fix the mess you made, and I'm not that person anymore. Please, Evan, I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll quit my job. I'll never speak to Derek again. Just please. Evan pulled a small box from his pocket. Blue velvet. Opened it to reveal her wedding ring, the ring he'd saved for months to buy, the ring she'd worn for 3 years while planning her affair. You forgot something else that night. She stared at the ring, started crying harder. Keep it. Sell it. Throw it away. I don't care. He closed the box, pressed it into her hand. But don't come to my workplace again. Don't call, don't text. We're done. Officially, legally, completely done. Evan, you called me cheap, called my clothes embarrassing, said I wasn't good enough to be seen with you in public. He looked at her, really looked at her, at the woman who'd once been his wife, now reduced to begging in a parking lot. Turns out, dignity's the most expensive thing you ever lost, and unlike money, you can't get it back. He turned and walked back into his office building. Didn't look back, didn't need to. Behind him, Marissa stood in the parking lot, holding the ring box, understanding finally what she'd traded away. 3 months later, Evan signed the final divorce papers at Michael Chen's office. Simple ceremony, no drama, no arguing. Just signatures on legal documents that transformed 3 years of marriage into a footnote. Marissa hadn't contested anything, couldn't afford to, had no leverage, no moral high ground, no resources to fight. She'd agreed to everything: asset division, separation of accounts, the acknowledgement that she'd been at fault, all of it. That's it, Michael said, stamping the final page. You're officially divorced. Papers will be filed with the court today. You'll receive final documentation in about 2 weeks. Thank you for everything. My pleasure. Well, not pleasure exactly, but you know what I mean. Michael leaned back in his chair. How are you doing? Really? Honestly, better than I've been in years. No regrets? About ending it? None. About not seeing who she was sooner? Maybe, but I learned something valuable. What's that? That accepting disrespect doesn't make you patient. It makes you complicit. I spent 3 years making excuses for behavior I should have challenged. Never again. Michael nodded approvingly. That's healthy. That's growth. Most people leave these situations bitter. You seem clear. Because I understand now. She didn't fail me. I failed myself by accepting treatment I didn't deserve. And when I finally stood up for myself, the problem resolved itself. Evan left the lawyer's office and stepped into bright spring sunshine. 3 months since that Friday night. 3 months since Marissa had called his clothes embarrassing and left for her office party. 3 months of rebuilding. He'd been promoted at work. His boss had noticed his renewed focus, his increased confidence. Whatever you're doing differently, keep doing it. You seem more present, more engaged. Evan had moved into a nicer apartment. Still 1 bedroom, but better location, better building, better everything. A place that was his. No shared memories. No ghosts. He'd reconnected with friends he'd neglected during the marriage. Guys from college. Co-workers he'd been friendly with but never spent time with outside work. Started playing basketball on Wednesday nights. Going to brewery tours on weekends. Started dating again. Cautiously, carefully. Nothing serious yet. But optimistically. Meeting women who treated him with respect, who valued his company, who didn't measure his worth by the brand label on his shoes. And yes, he'd updated his wardrobe. Not because Marissa had been right about his clothes, but because he wanted to. Because investing in himself felt good. Because looking professional and polished gave him confidence. The Italian leather shoes he'd bought that Saturday morning 3 months ago, he wore them regularly. They were beautiful, well-made, comfortable, everything good shoes should be. But he also still wore his original shoes sometimes. The ones Marissa had called worn, because they weren't worn. They were broken in, comfortable, good quality, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with them. The shirt Marissa had mocked, he'd kept it, wore it on casual Fridays, still fit well, still looked fine, still was exactly what it had always been, a good shirt. Because the problem had never been his clothes, the problem had been her values, her need to judge and diminish, her requirement that he be embarrassed about who he was so she could justify who she was becoming. Evan ran into Marissa one more time, about 4 months after the divorce was finalized. He was at a coffee shop near his new apartment, Saturday morning, reading the newspaper and drinking an expensive latte he'd bought without thinking twice about the cost. The door opened. Marissa walked in with her mother. She looked older, tired, worn down by months of consequences. Her hair was simpler. Her clothes were less expensive. Her makeup was subtle. Everything about her seemed diminished, smaller, like someone who'd learned humility the hard way. Their eyes met across the coffee shop. For a moment, neither moved. Then Marissa's mother saw him, whispered something to her daughter. Marissa's face flushed with shame. Evan nodded politely. Not cold, not warm, just acknowledgement. The kind you give to an acquaintance you pass on the street. Marissa looked like she might approach, might try to say something. Apologize again, perhaps, or attempt some kind of reconciliation conversation. But her mother put a hand on her arm, shook her head, guided her toward the counter to order. Evan went back to his newspaper. 5 minutes later, they left with their drinks. Marissa glanced back once. Evan didn't look up. There was nothing left to say, no conversation worth having, no closure needed beyond what had already happened. She'd made her choices. He'd responded with dignity and boundaries. Life had moved forward. That's what healing looks like. Not dramatic confrontations or tearful reconciliations, just indifference. Moving on. Building something new that doesn't include the person who tried to tear you down. 6 months after the divorce, Evan met someone. Her name was Rachel. She was a graphic designer. Funny, creative, kind. The kind of person who noticed when he did something thoughtful, who valued him for who he was, not what he appeared to be. On their third date, she asked about his previous relationship. "My ex-wife," Evan said carefully. "It ended badly. Do you want to talk about it?" "Not particularly. But she taught me what I deserve. Respect. Basic, fundamental respect. Everything else is negotiable. But not that." Rachel smiled. "I like that answer." Evan felt something warm bloom in his chest. Hope. When he went home later, he thought about Marissa, about where she probably was, living with her parents, dealing with consequences she'd created, and he felt nothing but gratitude. Gratitude that he'd discovered who she was before they'd had children, before they'd bought a house, before he'd wasted more years. Gratitude that he'd stood up for himself, that he'd walked away with his dignity intact. She'd called him cheap, said his clothes would shame her, and in doing so, she'd revealed exactly who she was. Evan had learned an expensive lesson, but it was worth every penny, because now he knew exactly what he deserved, and exactly what he'd never accept again. She'd called him cheap. Turns out, dignity's the most expensive thing she ever lost, and unlike everything else she'd thrown away, it was the one thing she could never get back.